Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, we are from group 3. I will explain about describing a diagram. Let's get it.
Describing a diagram for AELTS academic writing. Describing a diagram or graphic for your IELTS exam can seem like a scary task. However, all you need to do is have a clear understanding of what is expected of you. Strategy for describing a diagram, and I will explain this. Let's begin with the general outline. First, pay attention to the title of the diagram. This will tell you what the diagram shows. Next, examine the diagram. Pay close attention to first the main part of the diagram. The second is the relationship between these parts, and the third is any further explanation. Lastly, keep in mind that your task must contain at least 150 words and try to spend around 20 minutes on this task. Remember that you have to describe the diagram itself, not why it is used. Organize a structure for your description and create a plan for your description. The structure usually contains three parts: the introduction, the main body of text, and the summary. Don't worry if you don't know any technical words. Use your own words to describe the diagram. I will explain about diagram. The first is introduction. In the introduction of your diagram description, write about the purpose of diagram, the main body of text. Use the main body of text to outline a step-by-step explanation of the diagram. And the last is summary. In the summary, sum up the principal idea of diagram. Usually, one short paragraph is enough.
Next step to describe a diagram for ELTS academic writing. Task 1. Now that we know how to structure the overall description of a diagram, we can continue into other important parts that will give you better marks. Here's a list of 8 steps to help you write an excellent description for a diagram, and in turn gain you good marks. So let's do this together, step by step. Describe a diagram in ELTS. Step 1. Read the title and the image of the diagram and write about it. This will be your introduction. This image clearly illustrates the carbon cycle. Step 2. Describe the diagram in detail. This will be your main body of text. Carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere by aquatic and terrestrial life respiration, or the decomposition of plant and animal life. The CO2 is used in photosynthesis for the growth of plants and nourishment of animals. These organisms die and decompose. This decomposition and was the earth transforming into carbon. Carbon dioxide is diffused into the ocean through precipitation when gases in the atmosphere are transformed to water. If the decomposition of carbon in the seabed and land is interrupted, it leads to the development of fossil fuels such as oil, coal, and gas. These fossil fuels are extracted from the earth for human use. During manufacturing process, factories release fossil fuel emissions, including CO2, back into the atmosphere. Step 3 and Step 3 and add requesting word to your text in order to connect your descriptive sentence and make it flow better. Firstly, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere by aquatic and terrestrial life. Respiration or the decomposition of plant and animal life. Next, the CO2 is used photosynthesis for the growth of plants and nourishment of animals. Once these organisms die and decompose, this was and decomposition is transformed into carbon. Additionally, carbon dioxide is diffused into the ocean through precipitation. When gases in the atmosphere are transformed to water. Step 4. Make sure to include passive form in the description to define action that is done. In the ocean, the CO2 is converted into sedimentation in the seabed.
Step 5. Make sure you paraphrase your second and third lines to avoid redundancy. Next, CO2 is used in photosynthesis for the growth of plants and nourishment of animals. Once these organisms die, they are transformed into carbon, paraphrasing plants and animals quell organisms. Step 6. Include conditional and affirmative clauses to indicate possible outcomes when describing the diagram. Real conditional if the decomposition of carbon in the seabed and land is interrupted, it leads to the development of fossil fuels such as oil, coal, and gas. Adverb clause: once these organisms die, they are transformed into carbon. Step 7. Write a clear summary of the principal idea of the diagram in one short paragraph. This graph clearly indicates the cycle of carbon through the land and ocean. Step 8. Read through your written work to check for any errors. Here's our final text. Proofread it for any mistake and error. Firstly, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere by aquatic and terrestrial life. Respiration of the decomposition of plant and animal life. Next, this CO2 is used in photosynthesis for the growth of plants and nourishment of animals. Once these organisms die and decompose, this waste and decomposition is transformed into carbon. Additionally, carbon dioxide is diffused into the ocean through precipitation when gases in the atmosphere are transformed to water. In the ocean, the CO2 is converted into sedimentation in the seabed through the decomposition of marine animals. If the composition of carbon in the seabed and land is interrupted, it leads to the development of fossil fuels such as oil, coal, and gas. These fossil fuels are extracted from the earth for human use. During manufacturing process, factories release fossil fuel emissions, including CO2, back into the atmosphere. This diagram clearly indicates the cycle of carbon through the land and oceans.